Okay, so from Democrat to Republican to Libertarian, that's my walk. That's where I am now, Libertarian. Not a card-carrying member of the party, but pretty much agree with most of what they say. So I started early voting Democrat primarily for two issues, but there were other issues as well. Now, mind you, this was 27 years ago, I guess. It's 2020 now, so a good while ago. The two primary ones were race and the environment. So, well, in abortion, I used to be very pro-life. Not anymore, but race relations. Back then, I was in a very diverse part of the world, and I had the view that Republicans were racist, and interracial marriage was I believe it was legal everywhere by then in America, but was still very shunned, and I found that offensive. So I didn't like that about the Republicans. I thought they were all racist. And the Democrats were all about the black vote and all about doing everything for black people and all minorities, and I liked that. So they had me there. And environmentalism, I'm an outdoorsy person. I love the environment, and it appalled me that companies could freely pollute, it seemed, and the Chattahoochee River back then had more drugs in it than your local pharmacy. So they had me there. I listened to these politicians, the Democrat politicians, talk, and those were two of their talking points, or three of their talking points, if you count abortion. So first election cycle, I voted overwhelmingly Democrat. Voted for Democrats when I didn't even know their names. I just saw the D, Democrat, got my vote. I was young, I was stupid, I was ignorant, I was naive. But then I started paying attention to things, and the one that hit me was the environmentalism. Because if you're an environmentalist, you want the environment clean, I don't care if you punish, Bob's Sludge Factory. That's not the point, to punish those people. Yeah, they should probably be punished if they're polluting, but can we make them stop polluting? So we actually clean up the environment. I'm not anti-business, I'm pro-environment. Well, I find out by paying attention to the laws they're passing and the regulations they're passing and what they're saying, they do things like, and this is oversimplifying, but what they do is like, okay, it's going to cost Bob's Sludge Factory $5 million per year to conform to these new regulations. If you don't conform to these new regulations, then you have to pay a $1 million fine every year. Well, if I'm Bob, I can $5 million a year to comply or $1 million a year to not comply. I'm being incentivized to not comply. And then shortly after I started voting, environmentalism was taken over by global warming, which is a whole other issue. So all the very tangible and obvious pollution issues got swept under the rug, and now all environmentalism is global warming. And as I started watching what they were doing with race relations, and it seemed like they handled race very much the same way they handle the environment. And then my views started evolving regarding abortion as well. Like, wow, maybe you shouldn't be aborting a baby at 8 months. That sounds kind of wicked. And I started getting this philosophy, like, government's too big. It costs too much money. I got a few paychecks under my belt, and I started realizing, I don't make any money, and nearly half my money is going to the government. If you factor in federal, state, local taxes, service fees like the tag on this car, and the fact that everything you buy in a store has already been taxed multiple times. The store is being taxed, the truck that took it to the store is being taxed, the fuel he burned was being taxed. Like, man, probably over half my money that I earn, half my work day is paying for government, and it really pissed me off. And then at the same time, I was in college. Johnny Isaacson, I don't know if you guys remember this clown. He comes to my campus and he gives a campaign speech, and they got a cool song, rock the boat, Johnny, rock the boat. Kind of reminded me of Schoolhouse Rock. And he's talking about fiscal responsibility. Government is too big and too meddlesome in your life. And I thought, yeah, government's too big. He's talking about fiscal responsibility and lowering taxes and cutting spending. I'm like, yeah. So I vote for Johnny Isaacson. Well, unfortunately for Johnny Isaacson, and probably myself, my own happiness, the internet was developed enough at that point that you could go online and you could see every single vote these clowns made. And Johnny Isaacson, this fiscally responsible, financial conservative, spending cutting guy, every budget that comes across his desk, he votes for. He doesn't vote against any budget. Every appropriations bill, he votes for, with the exception of a few. And just to tell you if you don't know what an appropriation is, you don't remember. So they pass a budget and they say we're going to spend $22 trillion or whatever it is this year. And then, the good senator from Texas says, my state, we need missile launchers for the military base down there. And the good senator from California says, we need armored vehicles for the police in South Central. So the appropriation bill comes across to spend a little more money. Johnny Isaacson voted for every single appropriations bill, extra money on top of the budget, every single time, unless it had the word abortion in it. And I was very closely nearing to being pro-life. I was getting closer to pro-life. So that really didn't bother me that much. It did a little bit. But this dude's not a fiscal conservative. And if you look, every time a Republican's been in office, the deficit's gone up. So the analogy I have is, let's say the car payment on this car is $200 every month. So the Democrats say, hey, let's buy a nicer car. Buy a nicer car. We'll just borrow more money. We'll get a nicer car. We'll spend more money. Get a better car. The car being government. The Republicans say, no, the car's too expensive. So instead of paying the full $200, we're just going to pay $180, but we're going to keep the car. What the heck? You're not doing anything. You're just making it worse. So, who out here has principles? Who actually believes what they say and tries to do what they say? Because whether you agree with the Democrats or not, it doesn't matter. They don't do what they say. Whether you believe what the Republicans say or not, it doesn't matter. They don't do what they say. So is there a party out here that actually says what they mean and does what they say? A party with principles? And that's the Libertarian Party. I mean, that's why they're never elected, because they fight amongst themselves like a bunch of children. They never can say, okay, we agree 85%, let's be a team. They pick one thing they disagree on, throw the baby out with the bathwater. So that's why libertarians aren't in power. But they do believe in fiscal responsibility and leaving me alone. Leave the gays alone. Leave black people alone. Leave white people alone. Leave Jews alone. Leave people alone. Basically, they believe that they believe that government's role is simply to protect the individual, not the group, the individual, from force or fraud, violence, right? And they're to protect the individual from other individuals, from government, state, local, federal, and from foreign entities. That's pretty much what they think the government should be doing. And provide for, I believe they should provide for services that the private sector cannot. So roads, government, schools, private sector. This is 8 minutes long. That's more than long enough. I'll get into the history of the Democrats and race relations in another video, and cop killings and shark attacks in another video. But anyway, enjoy. Love you guys. Bye.